Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And today, the star of the show is Ashlie Price. Hello, Ashlie. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. So grateful to be part of this. So excited. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you on. I mean, based on the conversation we started on pre-recording, I know this is going to be a great conversation. So,
Totally.
right in. So, Ashlie, you are a self-love and connection coach, and there's so many things that you do that I do that I think like crossover so well. But before we go into all of that, because otherwise we'll never get to know who Ashlie is, give us three words that tell us who is Ashlie, and give us a little bit of backstory behind each word.
Totally. So, three words, my goodness. I definitely am identifying with the word of intuitive. I'm really starting to trust the inner wisdoms that are coming through a lot more for me now. And so that is something that is very powerful for me. Grounded as well. I tend to be a little high up in thoughts, but these days I'm really taking my time to center, ground, and balance out. And pretty easygoing. So I will go ahead and say laid back as well. I like to go with the flow. So whatever comes our way, we'll just ebb and flow with that and roll with it.
Yeah, I like all of those words. Intuitive. I will tell you, the more I trust my intuition, the more connected I'm intuition, the more fun the journey becomes. Because, and it's so funny. You can't explain to people with common sense why do you do the things that you do. It's like, well, that's what I feel like I should do, and you get the feedback of that doesn't make sense, or that's silly, and all of that. But once you know how to trust your intuition, it's such a different place to live from. And I would
That's where
say,
that rebel comes out.
why? See, I know it. I know we have the right person on the show. Yes. So talk about that. Talk about intuition and rebelliousness. Like, why do you tie intuition and rebelliousness?
Totally. So I was thinking a lot about this actually leading up to this conversation. And it was something that dropped in truly about maybe an hour before our meeting just now. And I was reflecting back on my life and how, as a child, I would rely heavily on my parents and their directions and what they wanted for me and wanted to please them and do things that, made them happy. And I would also look at my peers and try to imitate and emulate them and do what they were doing. And at the heart of it all, I was really kind of questioning, like, why did I do that? And acceptance, right? Like just wanting to fit in, wanting to conform, not wanting to be different. And then I started thinking about over my life how I really started to love the uniqueness of being different. However, that forms like a need for self-trust. And I need to really trust where my intuition was leading me and even my gut knowings of things, right? And the signals on the pathway of my life. And in order to do that, I couldn't rely on directions from anybody else. I couldn't rely on what my friends were doing because everybody's journey is so different. We have different interactions, we have different experiences, we have different life lessons. We come in here as a soul with so many things for our own particular pathways that rely us to trust ourselves. And so I was thinking about like the word rebel and what that means, because the image that I got was like how there is like a string of matches where you light one and it goes to burn, but the rebel is the one that steps out of the way and like stops it, right? It could truly keep things from burning up and falling apart just by making one trusted move. But in order to do that, we really have to trust our intuition on when is the right time to take action and when is the right time to be still. And nobody else can give that to us but our higher divine selves. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Oh,
really interesting how that
I
how that landed.
I had 10 minutes before my client came earlier today, and I said, well, I can go check emails. And I was like, or I can just spend 10 minutes being. And I kid you not, I put some nice meditation music on because I love music, and I lie down on the floor, and I was just there, not thinking about anything, just being present, connecting to the sound, feeling the texture of the floor, and just being present in the moment. And you started with the word grounded. And I will tell you, the old me, who was like the rush and have to do and the push energy that was constantly around me, would have never given myself the treat of, I'm not talking about like hours, I'm talking about 10 minutes to just be present in the moment. And the amazing thing that happens to you after those 10 minutes, like how much more rejuvenated, revived, restored you feel for just giving yourself that gift of being.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And when you're saying being still, I think that's something that is so missing in our society. We just don't know how to be still. And we're never taught. I'll tell you, so many of my clients say, how come nobody teaches us that stuff? It's not part of the norm. We just started, before we started recording, we started talking about kids because we have kids who are similar age. That stuff, unless it's brought up from somebody like us, who we're probably of the mainstream, it's not there.
Right. Right.
What do you think is the power, Ashlie, of slowing down and being?
Oh, this is something that I'm still learning. The hustle culture of go, go, go is definitely being rerouted these days, and we're starting to really awaken to the benefits of our beingness. And I always tell my clients all the time, we are human beings before we are human doings, right? It's not all just about go, go, go. And um, the beauty of the beingness is that that's where we start to tune into our own inner truths, because we can start to hear ourselves. The doingness is run by everything that's going on up here, the task list, everything that has to get done, the go, go, go of our agendas, and not just ours, but as parents, our children's agendas as well, and trying to keep it all organized. But when we start to slow down, we can really start to connect with, okay, I can stop judging myself on what I should be doing, which is all these things up here, and really question, and now, what do I need to be doing? What is my body calling for me in this moment? And I love that you said that, you like, sometimes it really is just about resting and laying down and taking a break, but the unfortunate thing that I see sometimes is that there's a lot of judgment that goes along with taking the rest or taking a break, right? And so my hope is that as we lead by example on the okayness of the slowdown, that others will start to give themselves permission as well, so that they can start to tap into what they're needing in the moment, and start to live that way, right? Because when we start to do that, that's where that self-trust really starts to get cultivated.
Yeah. And I think what you said, something that you said, is resonates so much with me, because I talk about it all the time with clients. It's that permission to, I think especially like as moms, you get a lot of, oh, she has time for self-care, right? It's kind of like, she's special. She thinks she can have time for self-care. And one, letting go of what other people think, and that's a huge one. That has been a big journey for me. Two, recognizing what your needs are and honoring them. I was talking to a client, she's been a client maybe for 3 years, something like that. And she said, made me so happy. She said, now when I know I need the rest, I give myself rest. And that's huge. That sounds like so simple, but it is so huge that she has actually made that transformation to, one, being aware of my body needs rest now, and two, actually honoring what her body needs and saying, okay, I will grant you rest now because that is what you need.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it really brings up the relationships that we have with the words of worthiness and deservingness. Like, how worthy are we of the rest? Did we do enough to earn this rest? And questioning all these things, like, could I do anything differently in order to justify me taking a break or getting a facial or getting a massage? Or, how do I keep away the judgments of doing these things for myself by way of being worthy of being able to have these things, but also like allowing myself that permission to say, I deserve to rest. I deserve to take a break. I deserve moments where I could just tune in with myself, right? And it's really allowing ourselves just to detach the comparison of other people's journeys, but also getting rid of those shoulds and should nots in regards to the way that we operate, you know? But we live in a world where it's like we roll the scroll every day and we get to see other people's highlight reels of what they're doing. And it's unfortunate, but there becomes this, unconscious comparison of like how other people are doing it, which is what I was speaking to before. Just doing that growing up, like I had no idea what was right for me because I was so busy looking at what everybody else was doing that, I wasn't listening into my own inner truth and wisdoms on what was being called from my soul at the time and even now. Yeah.
I think the societal's expectations of what defines success, and you being successful and you're living well, and I do this because I put it in quotations, for each and every one of us is exactly what you said. Is so different. Success to you might mean something totally different than it means to me. But if we go based on what how society defines success, we both should be doing, must be doing XYZ, and that is how we disconnect. And I see it. Actually, I almost feel we're about to crash because I see so many people who are busy, and I keep hearing, "Oh, I can handle stress. Oh, it's okay to be busy. I'm used to this." Just because you're used to it doesn't mean that it is good for you.
Yeah.
And just because your body is on overdrive doesn't mean it's good and healthy for you.
Yeah.
But that's a societal expectations. And I think for women, you hear, "Oh my gosh, I haven't slept, but I cooked a fresh meal for my family, and I did this, and I finished the project, and I got promoted, and this, and I'm exhausted." But my goodness, you're doing amazing. Keep going, pat on the back. And you're like, "But I'm exhausted." That's okay. You're doing great. And we're reinforcing those societal expectations of like, crush yourself, destroy your health, but you're successful.
Correct. Correct. By the constructs that are laid out by society standards of their own definitions of success. And it's interesting that we're talking about this because before hopping on the call, I was really thinking about like your mission and how you address your community as rebels. And I was like, ooh, I love this. This is juicy. And I was like, okay, what is rebellious to me? Right? What does that mean to me? And it's so notable because I actually wrote it down and I'm going to share it with you.
Please.
So, what came up for me was that rebellious is having the audacity to be who you want to be without carrying the weight of how you should be, and being yourself without the need to fit into any societal constructs. So, all of this is just really like hitting in the heart of hearts what it means. Yeah. To really just step out of line and start to really tune in and tap into what is in alignment for us. And, the opportunity here is really to get clear on what is really valuable to us as individuals, because what I value, like you said, it might be totally different than what you value. And that really is what is our, key markers in regards to what is success to us, because those values and feelings that we get, are our North Star on our pathway, guiding us to what we're wanting. Instead of taking the spoonful that society feeds us of what we should want and how we should get there, right?
And I think that goes back to the start of the conversation, Ashlie, when you said connecting to your intuition. I think that's key, right? To know, because sometimes people will, if I ask a person, what is your definition of success? Sometimes I get a blank stare of like, I don't know, like, right? And it's
Right.
the first thing that come to mind are, the promotion, the title, the money, da, 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 da. I did an event at the middle school several months ago, and I asked the kids, I said, what are some of the most important things when picking a job? Do you know what? These are kids, middle schoolers. So Do you know what's the number one thing that was the mass answer amongst them? Making money. There were some kids who talked about benefits. I don't really think that the kids understand what benefits means, but they talked about benefits. The mass thing was money, how much money you make. There was one kid, probably from like 15, 20 kids, who said, you should like what you do.
Yes.
And then I asked them, I said, so do you think that if you make a lot of money, you'll be happy? And you could just see the confusion on their face, like, is this a tricky question? So I was like, wow, these kids are middle schoolers. So what, 12, 11 to 13, 14, something like that. And they already are conditioned to know that the number one thing you should look in a job is how much money you make. Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
That is fast. I thought that was like, wow. They're already conditioned by society. Let's go kind of like backwards towards to intuition. How has your life personally changed by trusting your intuition and not living by society, by living rebelliously?
Oh my goodness. I will say I pray wholeheartedly that it does not take anyone listening to this as long as it took me to get to this point. Truly, I did not have any strong connection to my intuition until the later part of my 20s, my early 30s. And so wild. From high school, I used to freeze up when somebody would ask, like, what are you going to do with your life? Like, don't ask me, go to the next person. I was undecided in university, and then they threatened to kick me out. They're like, you got to pick something to do. And I'm like, what if I pick something wrong? And I'm trying to think of like all the things that like my mom would be proud of, my dad would be proud of, like what would look good on paper, you know? And then I started thinking about like my future spouse, what would they want to have for me? And I really started to curate my life, not tapped in all, at all. And it wasn't until I really lost my entire connection completely. And I'll just speak briefly on that. After the birth of my second child, I fell into the depths of postpartum depression. And in that period, I felt completely disconnected from the divine, like absolutely no trust in myself at all in any capacity. And I really had to just sit with myself as to, okay, take radical responsibility. How did I get here? You know, I can no longer blame anybody else, which was so easy to do sometimes, right? You know, I know better now. But at that time, it's just like I really had to sit like, okay, I've lost, you know, friendships. I lost, you know, a relationship. I have two children that need me. Like, okay, what do I do? And it wasn't until 10 years ago, I got a phone call from a mentor of mine who spoke life into me a few years ahead of that point, because I used to work for him, and he actually fired me because he said I had more potential than what I was doing for him. And he called me and he was just like, Ash, I I see a vision for you, and you know, I want to explore this with you. And he was talking about being a coach at the time. And it just kind of sparked something inside of me where I got excited. And I hadn't felt that excited in so long because it just seemed like everything was just going the opposite direction. And that's when I really started to feel that flicker of like something stirring in me, which I now know is like my inner truth being pulled out of me, you know, by way of this person's reflection. And it was just enough spark to have me start thinking about the possibilities of my life. Well, unfortunately, a few days later, he suddenly passed away. So I feel like in that moment, he like passed the baton to me. And ever since then, I have been running the race. But it gave me purpose. And this is, I mean, I don't know if we're going in this direction, but this is why I'm so passionate about what I do. because I feel like this is, as a coach, what I get to do. I have clients that come to me who are not tapped into their intuition and just need one person just to ignite just a little bit of a spark, not do the work for them, but just speak that potential and that life into them, even if just for a little moment. And it can totally change the trajectory of a person's life. And that's what happened for me. From that point forward, I started getting into the energetics of my soul, spirituality. I hired my own coaches. I started doing my own inner work, started owning a lot of things. A lot of things.
That's a process too.
Ooh, shadow work is a real deal. But from there, just that one conversation, it wasn't that he gave me the answer. It was that he already ignited something that was already within me, right? It was already there. I just needed somebody to reflect that to me and what they saw that was already here in me. And to me, that is really where I started to begin to trust myself, because I started to understand that nobody can make me feel a certain way, think a certain way, act a certain way, though it was so easy to like point fingers at everybody for why I was in the hole. But no, I started to really have that radical responsibility of owning, you know, all of my all of my things. And now it's just become a way of life where I get to slow down, question, is this right for me? Is this good for me? And I have the capacity to say yes or no. And I love to say no.
Can we talk about that? The ability to say no, that's a huge deal. I mean, I work with a lot of successful people and they don't know how to say no. And I tell them no is a full sentence. No.
Yeah.
It's powerful
Yeah.
to say no. Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
actually,
essentially saying no to someone else is saying yes to yourself, and you can never really go wrong with that.
yeah, say it's powerful, powerful, powerful. And it's uncomfortable. I get it. However, with practice, just like everything else, you say enough no's, it's not a big deal. He also talked about two other important points. Well, you said a lot of important things, but two that stood out was radical personal responsibility, which I think is key. And I'll tell you, my journey, when I went through my deep, it was the same thing. It was so easy to blame the world around me for why things are not going in my world, until I had to pause and look at that mirror and be like, oh, okay. And like you said, that shadow work, yeah. What I tell people is when that sewer overflows, it gets stinky out there. However, you're cleansing the sewer, so that is a good thing, right? And then, gosh, and I forgot my second. Oh, blame. Well, it kind of goes hand in hand. And blame, it's giving those other people your power away, instead of owning it and saying, whatever it is, maybe something that you're not so proud of, but owning it and saying, that's me, I did that, that was the choice, here is the lesson, there are no mistakes, here is my lesson, and here is how I'm moving forward.
Totally. And it lets you be human, right? It lets you be human. And to me, that's some of the most impactful witnesses and people that I get inspiration from are the ones who make mistakes, who admit their challenges, who, don't put on the front that everything is perfection. Like those are the ones that I really admire, to let people see the other side of things.
Yeah, and I think that's, like you said, that's the human side of us, right? We all are, I say we're all perfectly imperfect, because whatever it is that we've got going on, that's us. That's part of the rebel us, of authentic us. And we go through our journeys, and sometimes there are dips, and sometimes, there are dips before there are ups, and that's okay. That's part of the journey of being a human and growth, and they keep going.
Totally.
Yeah. So good, Ashlie. So good. Actually, you already told me what you think what rebellious means, and I loved your definition, which actually reminds me, I need to introduce you to somebody, but that's a whole different topic, and that's offline. Let's go into, what's a piece of advice or a favorite quote that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, so I remember in the article that we were able to collaborate on, I shared one of my favorite quotes with you, and I think I'll go ahead and share that again, just for those who have not read the article. But it's a quote by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she said it so beautifully. She said, I want to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent she had to do her work to the very best of her ability and to help repair tears in the society to make things a little better to the use of whatever ability she has. And I love this because it's like anybody can make an impact, anybody can make a move and make ripples in the community around them with whatever
Gift you have.
talents, abilities, gifts that they have. Um, but also, I would also, as far as advice go, is just let people see you, like the real you. You know, we live in a world where we can hide behind filters or post highlight reels to only show people the good things. But like I said just a little while ago, you know, letting people see the challenges, the vulnerable moments, the truth of what it means to really be human. And this is important because it allows the people who don't know how to say no or who take on too many tasks or, you know, take out their self-care time to fill it with somebody else's needs to do. Like it gives them that permission to not always feel the need to be superhuman. It allows them to take the cape off, hang it up, right? Make mistakes, have flaws, have failures, and just be human and just be human. And so I would definitely just say that, you know, allow yourself just to be human.
Yeah. And I think there is so much power in living as a human with all of your flaws, embracing them, all of your good stuff, all of your stuff that can benefit from improvement. We all have it. None of us are perfect. We're all in a continuous state of growth. Whatever that means for us, we're all in different stages of our growth, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with whatever we are. And embrace that, embrace the journey.
Yeah,
I'll take it back to embrace the journey with gentleness and kindness and love towards yourself. I think we're so good at beating on ourselves. I'll tell you, I had a client, she texted me yesterday about not being able to do an exercise. She was like, I'm upset about it, but these are the good things I'm working on. And I said, let's shift perspective. Let's paraphrase that and say, you're doing all of these things which are great for your body. You are creating that trust relationship with your body. You're feeling better and are able to do things which you could not do before. Let's focus on that rather than
yeah,
the I cannot do one exercise from all of the exercises that we're doing. And it shifts your entire energy when you look at it as, you know, wow, look at all the great things I'm doing versus the one thing that I didn't do
totally.
well, right? It
Okay.
shifts your entire perspective. And that goes back to something that you mentioned, and that's self-worth and self-love. And, you know, I do say like 99.9 of our problems originate from lack of self-worth because we're really not taught to prioritize ourselves, to love ourselves. And it's
Right.
like a different and deeper place to live rather than exist if you come from that standpoint.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
so good. Soulful. I get call it soulful conversation. All right, Ashlie, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to follow you? What's the best place to find you?
Totally. So on Instagram, my handle is at the Ashlie Price. Ashley is spelled a little differently. It's not Ley, it's Lie. So it's ASHLIEPRICE. And then my website is ashleyprice.com. There is a little link on there. If you want to send me a message, you can DM me on Instagram. I'd love a good voice note. Also, I have a free 30-day self-care planner. So if you need a little bit of inspiration on little teeny tiny activities that you could do for yourself every day, you can go download that for free on my site. I would love to get to know you. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Ashlie, thank you so much for being with us. Totally enjoyed our conversation. Appreciate you making the time. Rebels, check out Ashley's social media, check out her website. Let us know if you have any questions. Do hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Again, Ashlie, thanks for being here. And you guys, remember to stay rebellious. See you next time. Can't get enough of those rebellious conversations? Do make sure you subscribe, like, and share with your friends.